Hi everyone, I'm Shanice Naisenya and welcome to the first episode of The Privacy Sphere. This is a space where we'll be talking about data protection, privacy, digital rights, and having real conversations around them and how they affect our day-to-day lives, our work, our finances, our communities, our sherehe, and essentially our safety. In this episode, we're going to discuss some foundations and then answer some frequently asked questions like, what is this data protection and privacy? Hizi rights ni gani tuko nazo? What is this thing called consent? And then we will look into the privacy space. How do you get in here? What are the career opportunities that are available to you? We'll also look into the $1 million question. How do you keep yourself safe on the internet? So let's learn and vibe. Let me know what you think in the comments. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, let's jump right into data protection, the rights, and consent. I like to say there's a Bible when it comes to data protection, and it comprises of 3 things. 1, the Constitution of Kenya, Article 31, yenye inatupatia our right to privacy. It says that we have the right to not have our, private life essentially interfered with. And then now from that Article 31, ndio tuko na the Data Protection Act. And remember, an act usually comes with regulations kwa sababu act ni kama rule book, alafu regulations inakuambia how to use the rule book. And then the third thing ni guidelines zenye we get from the ODPC, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. Hii ofisi ni authority ya mambo za data protection essentially. Na inatoa powers zake from the act. So that is what I like to call the Bible of data protection. But when I got into this space, kitu nilifind interesting ni our act ni ya 2019. But can you believe our National Assembly imekuwa have hizi conversations as far back as July 1999? So it's not a new thing. And then when they started those conversations, there was like a directive. Kuna mtu aliambia mtu hapo a draft your bill, lakini hiyo story kaenda hivi kakanyangiwa na maji. Then fast forward to 2010 hapo. When the civil society, of course, civil society ni hawa say like organizations, normal civilians like you and me, who see things happening and decide to do something about it, yeah? So that time now, civil societies decided what a draft bill, and then they tabled it in parliament. That was even before Constitution ya 2010 ikwe promulgated. But again, conversation ikaoga na maji. Until now, Huduma Namba came in. And by the way, this is in the Kenyan context. At this time, the rest of the world wameendelea na hizi stories za data protection, wamejitengenezea rules zao. Now this is in the Kenyan context. Huduma Namba. So the government wants to do this thing. And then in 2019, remember NIMS, your NIMS, walikuwa na collect personal data huko mbele before we even have had the act. Then now on one hand, uko na gava wanasema, they want this Huduma Namba. Then on the other hand, civil societies wameamka tena. They file a case, the Nubian case. But they shout out to my friend Mariam Jamal, who worked on this. Then they're saying you cannot implement this thing without a proper rule book or a law. So the government was like, okay, fine, let us implement this Huduma Namba. Let us implement this act and then we get our Huduma Namba. And that's how we ended up here. And as you can see, kwa hii field ya data protection, the law usually plays catch up. Kwa sababu tuna deal na an ever-evolving digital space. It changes the way we get services. It changes the way we communicate so much faster. And as all of these things are progressing, pia our malicious actors, the fraudsters, the scammers, the hackers, pia wao wanachanuka. And they're getting too good at how to misuse our data, which is why we have data protection, privacy, and the act to decide and have a say on how people interact with our data. So, what is this say me and you have? We have rights in the act. And when people are handling your data, you have the right to, 1, be informed. Lazima wakusho, wao ni nani wana collect data, wanaifanyia nini, wanaitumia for what reasons. Because remember, kuna watu wanaitwa data brokers. Hawa say ni watu wanaenda kununua data, hata wale hizi vitabu black books huwa tunafeel ukiingia kwa building. Have you ever asked yourself where that data goes? Data brokers. Wanaenda wananunua your data, they use it for malicious purposes. So you have a right to be informed the how, the what, and the why around your data. You also have a right to correct your information. For example, umefill application, wameandika date of birth yako wrong. You have a right to go and correct it. You have a right to say, by the way, wacheni ku process data yangu. For example, if you deal with an organization and then you see people complaining on Twitter, on X, saying all of these things about this organization, you can go say, by the way, I do not consent anymore. Delete my data. You also have a right to complain. Jua Kenya tunapenda complain, God damn it. You have a right to complain to the ODPC whenever you feel that your right to privacy is being infringed. You also have a right to access whatever any of these organizations have on you. Unaweza waambia, by the way, ebu niekeni data yangu yenye mko nayo kwa ka PDF, kwa ka flash disk, mnitumie. I want to see. So all of that is how you can exercise your rights under the act. Na usipo, unajua kuna mtu atakuja kuambia, oya, data yako inatumika vibaya, uko na hii right. Ni wewe ukwe vigilant and you look for these things. So, hii yote iko anchored on one thing. Data protection iko na like a cornerstone, a heart, which is what we call consent. Remember, anyone who handles your data, akiweza kuonyesha, by the way, this person knew what I was going to do with this information, na akanipatia consent, na ilikuwa valid. Unajua hapo utakuwa na case. Yeah? And some of these actions usually can be perceived as consent. Just now I was having a conversation about the case ya Edgar Obare and that photo that he posted, ya huyo mtoto. And many thought that he would lose, but he didn't. Because hapo, ODPC waliona kuna implied consent. Because hakuna vile utaweka things on the internet and then they will be used because you yourself consented, you put them out there. And then they will be used maliciously. You can't come and cry now and say, oh, hapana, sikukubali. So also be careful on how you handle yourself on social media, which we'll talk about in a bit. So, consent. This part is very important for organizations, so listen up. Consent has to be free, prior, and informed. So what does this mean? Kabla uanze collect data ama information ya wase, personal data, you have to tell them what you're going to do with it. You have to tell them, when nani, who are you that is collecting this data in between my interview? Who are you? What are you going to do with it? Usikuwa unaenda kuuzia data brokers hapa alafu mimi nafikiria umechukua uende unipatie loan maybe, for example. You also need to tell them, how is this information being kept safe? Are you just putting it in a file that is going to be accessed by everyone in your company? Unanianika hapo kwa billboard kila mtu aone vile umechukua wadeni. So you also need to tell people how this information is going to be used. And by the way, this consent can be withdrawn, just so you know. It's not absolute. So saying I'm going to, if for example, it's an event company and you say you're going to use people's photos in perpetuity, hadi wadedi, hadi watoto wao wadedi, that's not valid. Consent can be withdrawn. And so for organizations, when you think about consent, hii ni kitu unafaa kufikiria from the beginning of your product life cycle, of your app life cycle, or whatever it is that you're launching or building. Si saa zile ushamaliza umeenda huko umelaunch kitu ndo unaanza kusema, oh by the way, wasi wakicomplain tunawahandle aje? No. From the beginning of whatever it is that you're launching or whatever it is that you're doing with this data, think about how to protect your customers, to protect your consumers that you're dealing with. Show them, and consent cannot be gotten ati. Unaona kama hizi terms and conditions vile zinakuanga refu. 50 pages. Unangoja mtu apitie 50 pages asome for 1 hour ndio ajue nini unataka kufanya na data yake. That's not right. When you're getting consent, when you're seeking consent, for it to be valid, eka kando, eka separately from all these other terms and conditions. Tell them, who are you? Why are you collecting this data? How are you going to use it? How are you going to keep it safe? What rights do they have? Or how can they access their rights, rather? Because we know which ones they have. So how can they access their rights? In fact, unawaonyesha vile wewe as an organization, umewafikiria. You're thinking about your customers. Your data handling practices are very safe. And that way, they even trust you more. I hate this comment that this phrase, data is the new gold. Okay, then trust is a new currency. When you show your customers that they can trust you, they can trust your practices, that their data is safe in your hands, they obviously trust you. Now, let's move aside from consent when we talk about organizations. Let's talk about you and me. Mimi na wewe. I'm always screaming about data protection back at home. Wamenichoka. And I remember this one time my mom called me and she was saying, oh, I wanted to use this website. Hiyo kitu ime pop up. Me, I just clicked accept. So I've sold away my rights. I was like, did you read it? Now I'm going to ask you, when was the last time you read those terms and conditions? Those apps, those websites. When was the last time you read the terms and conditions? At least there are those that usually put it huku mwisho, so you have to scroll ndo usiseme ukusoma. Ama hata hiyo tu una scroll and then you click. We kasonge, sindio? And by the way, some of these terms and conditions, you don't know what the app is accessing, essentially. Unakuta calculator app, ina access your contacts. Why? For what? There's a fitness app that was actually sued because they were sharing location data with third-party brokers. Fitness app, inatuma location yako to third-party brokers. There's another app, I will not say it now, staki wanikujie, that we love very much. And they had been accused of privacy concerns kwa sababu it was found that they usually scan your clipboard. Unaona kwa simu vile una copy paste, ukienda maybe umesahau password, copy and paste, they would scan your keyboard after a few keystrokes. So walipopelekwa kwa authorities, they said that it was to catch spamming. Ile people copy and paste to send to many people. But now you see, that is why you have to be vigilant when it comes to dealing with these apps. Know what you're consenting to, because eventually, hata ukiwapeleka mahali watasema tu, they consented. But to give up, there's still hope. There's still hope. Civil societies are still fighting. For example, we have an initiative. It's called Jua Terms by Amnesty Kenya. And it is actually a youth-led campaign. Ni campaign ya vijana. And they are campaigning for tech companies to make these terms and conditions more easy to understand, simpler. Essentially, they're advocating for a clearer, safer digital space. And essentially, sometimes these responsibilities fall to us. Ni sisi, by the way, ni sisi ku decide. Tunapeana power inakaaje. Food for thought. So now that we understand how we came here, what is data protection, how you can complain, what are our rights, let's talk about this space. Another frequently asked question is, how did you get here? This is a rapidly evolving and new space. And I think for everyone, the journey is different. I can only speak on mine. So I have a background in law. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a certified data protection officer. Msijali, si mawakili tu wamejaa huku. Unajua we've been accused, tuko na kierere, tuko kila wali. Might be true, but kuna other professions in the space. So after trying to find my my niche in the legal sector, by the way, shout out to all the wakilis who are doing big things in practice and all the wakilis who are doing everything other than law. The enemy is poverty of importance. Nyi wote ndio wale wase. So I found my passions in the privacy space. After stalking people I knew in the space doing big things since campus, I identified one of them, nika decide. Hapa ndo naingililia. Hi, Philip. So I reached out, I expressed my interest in the space and basically asked to shadow him, and he agreed. So followed him around, see how, to apply the act, because knowing and having an act is one thing, but knowing how to turn that into money is another thing. And I think on this journey, there were two big milestones that really helped. The first is community. Lazima ujue kwa ground kunaendaje. You have to find the right communities in the space that will push you to realize what you actually want to do. And for me, the community I found was the Data Privacy and Governance Society of Kenya. And when I tell you guys, I found my tribe. This group is amazing, by the way. They are big on mentorships. They have these conversations every month where they hold CPD events, forums where we can speak. At least you don't feel stupid when you're asking questions, yeah? They participate in public interest litigations. Izi kupeleka hawa wase wenye wana handle data ya Kenya vibaya huko kotini. Wako huko wana fight the good fight. So from the community, I was able to interact with people and professionals and actually know where I want to fit myself in this space, knowing where my strengths are. And then the second thing that really pushed was courses and certifications. Sasa hapa ndio kizungumkuti inaingilia, because there are so many out there, you don't know which ones to start with. Others are too expensive, but there's a bunch. I will include some resources in the description of this video, and you'll be able to see, what tools you can use. So I started with a free one. It was a course offered by Strathmore University. It's called CPIT Data Protection course. That one at least gave me some foundations on how data protection works. And then I was able to go to the next certification, which is now an internationally known one, the CIPP certification. So when it is good to have an internationally known certification, because remember, the data space is not just in Kenya, it is global. This digital space has opened up the world in ways that we could not imagine. So having something that is recognized globally is very, very helpful. That certification is given by a body called IAPP, the International Association of Privacy Professionals. And note, nimesema professionals. Kumaanisha si mawakili pekee, by the way. They have many certifications for techies, for analysts, for cybersecurity experts, for managers. So I will put it in the description and you can go check it out if you're interested. So combining these certifications and with the help of that community that I was in, I was able to really learn a lot, move quickly through the space. And I will say this, I had to volunteer a lot at the beginning. To get your name out there, you have to be seen and felt in these rooms. So volunteering a lot was something I did. But that allowed me to now get into the opportunities, because when someone thinks of an opportunity, you're top of mind. And that way I was able to. Oh, and by the way, that guy I mentioned earlier called Philip, at that time he had a company, a consulting company called DPO 360 Africa. And then when he allowed me to follow him around, I was able now to become, a part of his company, because I made sure hawezi songa bila kunitafuta. And so that's how you get yourself into these rooms. Now, this is a good segue into what roles or careers can you actually have in the data protection space. Of course, penye moshi pana moto. Hata wakili tukiakiziwa tumejaa kwa hii space. I mean, most of these are inclined to people with a law background, but also techies and people who are interested in governance. You have a window here. So, of course, roles. Ya kwanza, kuna DPO. A DPO, Data Protection Officer, essentially is a person. They can either be external or internal. External, ni kama vile tulikuwa tunafanya na DPO 360 Africa. We were called to organizations, we audit their processes, we see how compliant they are, and then we make recommendations for them to take up. And then internal, wewe ndio uko huko ndani, wewe ndio kusema, wewe ndio unaangalia, have they complied with the act? Have they registered? Do they transfer data out of Kenya? Have they secured, the data properly? So that's one. The second is a privacy analyst. A privacy analyst ni msee mwenye ana support DPO sasa kwa the day-to-day implementations. Unaenda unaangalia kila department ina process data aje. Wako na record. Wameweka hizo systems zenye zinafaa kuwekwa, wame safeguard. Kila mtu tu ana access every file ama. So that is the work of a privacy analyst. And then you have a privacy engineer. This is where now the techies thrive. Because a privacy engineer, kazi yake ni kutengeneza hizi systems zenye incorporate privacy into the organization's procedures. So you create these systems and you implement them kwa organization to make sure that they're privacy conscious and everything that they're doing is compliant. So that's the work of a privacy engineer. Then we have a data protection auditor. Under the act, kwa hii act, hawa wanaitwa ODPC wako na right ya kukuja kwa organizations na kusema, we want to audit vile munafanya job yenu. Are you guys compliant with the act? Are you guys doing the practices that are privacy conscious? So Hizo zote. Oh, and we have also Privacy Council. Hawa ni wase wenye they are not necessarily certified, but they give expert evidence when it comes to data protection stuff. They look at the contracts that you have with other third parties in your organization. Are they compliant? Do they, take into consideration hii information tunawapatia kama third parties, munaihandle aje, such. So now that you at least know the roles that are available in this space, where can you implement them? Of course, kuna the best employer, as I hear, the best employer in the country, the government. You can work with the government either in the ODPC, because kumbuka wase wako na departments mob, wako na registration, wako na responding to breaches, wako na investigations, wako na dispute resolution, etc. So you can work with them in that capacity. You can also work with other ministries in the government. Kumbuka tuna deal na personal data. So kama kuna ministry yote ina deal na personal data, you can get a job there. Health, education sector, you can get a position in such. Another place you can work in is eCitizen. This is a very technical platform that deals with a lot of personal data. They need DPOs, they need analysts, they need techies, they need engineers, they need councils. So all those are opportunities that you can get. You can also work in parliament to push policies, that are AI conscious, cybersecurity conscious, privacy conscious, and, have a part in how these policies are made. And of course, the best that people like, I think, the private sector. Private sector, you can work banks, fintechs. You can work with banks, fintechs, e-commerce, telcos, all those organizations that deal with personal data. In the private sector, by the way, we have even entertainment companies where you buy your tickets, Kinamook. All those people, by the way, when you send them the personal data, do you know where it goes? Have you ever asked yourself? Yeah, so you also have the startup side. You can also work with them. You can work with consulting firms, like I had mentioned before. And finally, I think you can go to the NGO sector, international non-governmental organizations that are local, all NGOs, essentially those that are in the humanitarian sector, in the education, health sector, wako huko kwa villages wanafanya vitu. Do you know what they're doing? And they're collecting a lot of personal data on our communities. So all of these are places where you can participate. So how do you get there? We've already said volunteering. Usifikiria kuna mtu tu atakupatia opportunities bure. Volunteer, push yourself and then get there, learn how they work, be instrumental in their day-to-day, and you'll secure yourself a position. And of course, internships. A lot of these companies give internships, so lazima ukae rada, keep checking their websites and find out what they're doing. And then, of course, participate in the courses. We have a lot of free courses. For example, Coursera, Udemy, CPIT, the one I mentioned before. There's Cyber Shuja, but I know that one is paid. And then there's the Tech Hive Africa. That's also another paid one. But usingangane, there are a lot of opportunities out here. So now that we've discussed about data protection, tumeona vile ina apply in our day-to-day lives, the rights that we have, consent, the space. Let's get to the fun part, the tips. How do you keep yourself safe online? And I think you know the first one. The first one is actually very common. Stop oversharing on social media. I know we usually say if it did not happen on camera, it probably didn't happen. If it's not on camera, it probably didn't happen. But guys, the social media is the one-stop shop for data. Anyone wants to find you, they go to your socials. Kwa huko tunajua birthday yako, tunajua mtoto wako, tunajua birthday yake. I remember there was this episode that was, I saw an episode on Kurugenzi's channel, and he was talking about how kuna jamaa alioshwa kwa sababu, na one of his employees, by the way, because he was using his password to the system where he usually pays guys. Yeah. Password ya hiyo system ilikuwa birthday ya mtoto wake. Na kila mtu alikuwa anajua jina ya mtoto wake na ile year alizaliwa na hivyo ndo alioshwa. So we're going to discuss about passwords in a bit, but don't stop oversharing online. When you're somewhere, you don't have to post the live location. You can post after you've left. Imagine mimi ni mgondi, nimekupangia alafu ninaona umeweka huko live kwenye beach Mombasa. I know it's the opportune time to come and hit your house. Yeah, it's not safe to just post live locations. And another thing, now that we're talking about locations, Snapchat. I know we are all on Snapchat. There's this tab where you have the map. And if you go into that tab ya map, unaweza ona watu wamekisha locations zao kule wako. You can see, huyu ametoka home, ameenda Hosi, ameenda soko, amerudi home. Let's check what apps have access to your location. Is it a must? Ama unaweza zima? Because most of these apps, they get access to your location, but they don't actually have to use them. Wanatumia kufanya nini? So check, do your due diligence. What apps do you have? What permissions have you given to these apps in your phone? Third, by the way, did you know there's an AI tool that can calculate or determine how old you are based on how often you post happy birthday to me on social media? Yeah. This information is out there, by the way. Go check. And then we have even AI tools that can mimic your face with how you've aged over the years, posting happy birthday. Hiyo ndio inachukuliwa, wanaenda wana edit, they make some scamming videos, and then huko unaita watu forex trading. I traded on forex and I won. Guys, let's just not. Okay, let's stop. Avoid posting where you live, the location of where you live and the location of where you work, the location of where you go to the gym. Malicious actors wanachukua tu their AI tools again that match all of these different data sets, and they're able to create a pattern of your routines, your habits. Anaamkanga asubuhi, anaenda gym, anaenda job, ndio hapa, anaenda lunch kwa hiki bandaski, anatoka, ameenda home 5 o'clock on the dot. Na hivyo ndio someone can know the A to Z's of your life. It's not a must, man. Let's chill on the social media, guys. Okay? Don't have to post in real time. Not okay, post usiweke location. Okay, apart from oversharing on social media, another thing I always advise people to do is have the basics secured. When we talk about basics, what do we mean? Passwords. Let's talk about passwords. The best password to use is a phrase, a sentence. For example, I will not forget this password this time. Use a phrase, a sentence with the spaces. Unaweza ongeza numbers huko ndani, hashtag, hizo characters to make it a bit more complex. Yeah, another example. This is my 7th password. And by the way, there's a website, again, that you can go check out how fast it is for your passwords to be hacked. It's called passwordmonster.com. Homework. Go check it out. Tell me how fast it took for your passwords to be hacked. And then you can try a new phrase and see how long it would take for that one to be hacked. Another basic that you need to have is cookies. Guys, can we just stop this habit of accepting all cookies, please? Na si cookies za kukula, tunajua hizi ni cookies gani? So essentially, cookies are small files. When you're browsing, when you go to the internet, that browsing session where you're in, it usually leaves small files. When you accept all of them now, inaacha small files in your device, and it's able to track your preferences, what you like, and then the next time you search something, inakwambia, by the way, there's a cheaper, if you're searching flights, tells you there's a cheaper option here. If you're shopping, there's this other shop that has the same thing that you're looking for at a better price. All well and good. The problem comes in when I am a hacker, okay? And I am able to access, maybe that website that you're on has not secured itself properly. Then I'm able to access that browsing session that you're in. I get a hold of these cookies. I duplicate this session elsewhere and I log you out. Na hivyo ndo umekuwa hacked. So guys, let us stop accepting all cookies. There are those that tell you, okay, this is a must because it helps with the functioning of the app or of the site. Well and good. But hizo zingine zima. If it doesn't give you that option, ati kuna zile ni a must, reject all of them. Okay? Another thing that I usually think is a basic that you have to do is called clearing the cache. Mumesikia hii kitu? Browser yako, you have to clear the cache. Clear the cache every week, by the way. And if you don't know how to do this, munashindanga Google that. homework ingine such that uliza ChatGPT how to clear your cache. And then let me know if you did it. Let's try and do this every week so that whatever it is that you track as you browse, you're able to remove it from your browser. And by the way, just a tip when it comes to dealing with browsers. Make sure you have a different browser for your sensitive activities, kama job, bank. The browser that you use to access your sensitive activities should not be the same browser that you use for your everyday searches. Izo places munaendanga. Yeah, make sure it's two different, separate. At least that way you can spread the risk of you being compromised. Because if you're using one only for bank and another one for everyday searches, that way watu wengi wako huku kwa hizo fun websites. Those are the ones that are very heavy with malicious actors. Another thing that you should do, najua mmechoka kusikia two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, but these are the things that keep you safe. And try very much to not have kama two-factor authentication umeka kwa app and then inakutumia code kwa text. Try and have an authenticator app. These are apps that you can just download on Play Store or App Store. That is much better than having it sent to your text, because the ones that, if sending codes to text can be easily intercepted. I don't know how many have seen the Authenticator app via Microsoft. When you use Microsoft and try to log in maybe to your email, it has an Authenticator app that it sends the code to there. You confirm it is you, and then it gives you the code. You enter. That is much, much safer than having it sent to your text. So those are the basics that you need to have. Now, let's talk about another thing. Cousins, hii imewaweza. Public Wi-Fi. Kenyans and public Wi-Fi. Umeingia tu mahali, nipatie Wi-Fi password. Do not interact or do not transact, especially on bank websites or the very sensitive activities. Don't do them on public Wi-Fi. You know why? If I am a hacker and we are on the same website, I can see all of this. We're on the same Wi-Fi rather. I can see all of the websites that you go to. And I can redirect you to a fake website. Na we utajua. Click next. Alafu mi na intercept your session. You remember what we were talking about? Sessions and cookies? Iyo. I intercept, I redirect you to a fake website. You put in your details. Click enter. Error 404. Page not found. Na hivyo ndio hijack session yako na nimeendelea na credentials zako, and that's how you get hacked. So if you really have to access something on public Wi-Fi, make sure you have a VPN. A VPN will at least mask your activities online. Mtu ataweza kuona nini unafanya. I'm going to bring techies for you to tell you which best products you can use, yeah? VPNs gani zinaweza, kwa sababu kuna mingi uko ni free and they don't really do what they're supposed to. So subscribe usipitwe. Yeah. Also, just hotspot with your phone. Si lazima wachana na public Wi-Fi, by the way. Kabisa. So, at this juncture, I think I can stop the episode there. We've dropped a lot of gems. Watch, I let you marinate on those. If this episode has helped you to think differently, share, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and let me know what topic you would like us to unpack next. There's so many good conversations coming up with techies, with other legal people in the space. We'll discuss more about the ODPC and how to get, how to sue and get paid for people who are misusing your data. We'll talk to people in the entertainment industry to find out what are the challenges when it comes to consent. So stay tuned and see you on the next episode.